There was a man called Norman Cousins who had an autoimmune disease called, it's a very bad disease like rheumatoid arthritis. Ankylosing spondylitis is the disease. Not even one muscle in his body moved. And he went to Harvard here, there, and he was a big American journalist. Norman Cousins, you must have heard. Then in Harvard they said, you are going to die anyway, so we'll give you a free room, be there, enjoy, and then die. One day his friend came and cracked a joke. You know, they were all happy. They all laughed. He also laughed. Laughed. He saw his fingers moving. Then his friends went and brought all the jovial movies, you know, Charlie Chaplin in the olden days. There were no televisions those days. They brought that 16 reel in his room, fixed it, and he went on laughing the whole day. And would you believe he went out to the hospital 6 months later, completely cured, lived for another 60 years. He has written a book for you all. It's called Anatomy of an Illness. Anatomy of an Illness. It's a small book, very small amount. Please read that. You will know how diseases can be cured with your own mind. Because when you are sent here by God, He didn't think that there will be foolish doctors like B.M.Hegde to give you medicine. He said, no, there must be a doctor inside. He gave a doctor inside. It's called the immune system, which is the one that keeps you alive. And that's the one that cures you when you get a disease, not me or the surgery that we do. Actually, now recent studies have shown even bypass surgery is only a placebo. You know, one of my former teachers in Harvard, he's a Nobel laureate, Bernard Lown, he did a study. 600 patients were sent for bypass surgery at Harvard. He had a team of researchers and they found none of them needed scientifically bypass surgery because bypass surgery is not needed. So he said, okay, let us take advantage of this. Anyway, they have come, they have paid their money. So he had 2 theatres, Theatre A, Theatre B. Those days we could do it with the laser tip. You don't have to cut this chest and all. So he said, Theatre A, anesthetize, operate, send. Theatre B, anesthetize, keep him sleeping there. When he wakes up, tell him he had a wonderful operation, send. So 300 patients here, 300 patients there. Now after 5 years, the audit showed the other who went to Theatre B, they're all fine. And scanning showed their muscles are normal now. Theatre A, half of them did not get relief from their pain, so they had to have a cut open, big surgery. The other half are with their maker in heaven. The remaining half, that's 1/4, are having side effects of drugs. Because I just now saw one person, one of the devotees of Ramakrishna Math. He's having all the horrible side effects of drugs after he had what he calls a stent, which I call a stunt. So this is what happens. So what is happening is, the mind is pleased, okay, I am operated now, I am all right. That's enough. Then you may say, how do people after operation get benefit? After paying 10 lakhs, doesn't your mind tell you, I am all right now? That's what happens. That's what happens. Now, what about drugs? You may say, oh, no, I am getting drugs. And they did a study in Harvard, Cambridge, Munich, and one other university. They did a study, what's called a crossover study. They took patients with severe pain the like of which patients had never experienced, and gave them a drip of morphine, which is supposed to be the best drug for pain killing. But while giving, the doctor in whom the patient had faith told the patient, this is not morphine, this is a vitamin we are giving to you, which is good for your health, but not for pain. Nobody's pain got relieved. With the morphine running in the vein, pain didn't get relief. Then they took the patient over to the other side, crossover study. They started saline drip, salt water, and told the patient, this is the best salt of morphine. Your pain will disappear like that, and pain disappeared like that. So everybody was surprised. What is happening? The researchers themselves were surprised. What's happening? So they said, okay, let us find out what the brain is doing, because brain has a memory power. Mind is not in the brain, but the memory is in the brain, in a place called hippocampus major. I still remember, in Tamil Nadu and all, if you go to the temple, especially Ganesha temple, you do what's called Topukarnam. You hold like this and, Terima? Tamilian ninge? Yes, when you do that, you pull your pinna down, you see. And when you pull your pinna down, it stimulates your hippocampus major. So makes your memory power go up. So children before the exam were sent to the Pillayar temple, to Topukarnam. See, our ancestors knew more science than what we know. Before knowing where the hippocampus major is, they knew that if you stimulate your ears, your hippocampus major gets stimulated. How did our school teachers in our days? They used to squeeze our... If you do a mistake, they squeeze it. That makes you a better student. So, see, this is how the ancient wisdom is much more powerful than the modern Western science. Now, the science that you are talking about on the West is not curiosity. There is anything but curiosity in that. That has become a religion, a bigger religion than all the religions put together. It has become so dogmatic that it says it shall be like this, it shall be like this. A paper should be written like this, and it should be peer reviewed, and then only it's published, then it's called science, then we'll give you grant, etc. Today, scientist means write a paper, get it published, pat somebody's back, and then you get the grant money, get more money, and the bigger the grant you get, the bigger the scientist you are. Which means a scientist today is a rich man. So who gets a lot of money, he becomes a big scientist. One who doesn't get grants doesn't become scientist. But really, knowledge advances not by repeating what is known and repeating the same thing, but by refuting what is dogmatic. Karl Popper said, knowledge advances not by repeating known things, but by refuting false dogmas. There are a lot of things, unknown things in this world. As a matter of fact, one of our scientists, who is a great scientist, who was a great scientist in America, he died recently. He's a Bengali. Rustum Roy was his name. You may wonder why Rustum is not a Bengali name. No. Rustum was the name of a friend of his father, and because the friend died young, he named his son as Rustum. Roy, of course, is a Bengali name. Rustum Roy is the greatest scientist that, in my opinion, in America. He went to America at the age of 17 and then became a professor of metallurgy in Penn State University and retired at the age of 80. Still they said, you are our professor, till he died, because he was such a brilliant chap. He was reading a small stanza in the Rig Veda called Urj, which said, the mother and father of all energy is water. And then he found out the structure of water. And he found out how water has a very complicated structure. It's not H2O. It's a very complicated structure with a lot of loose bonds. And he was the one who found out that you can put a silver into the water, nanoparticles. It gets amalgamated into silver water, which is a very good antiseptic, antibiotic, very good for treatment. Actually, he was a PhD in metallurgy, but became professor of medicine in a big university in America, because he found out so many things about medicine from his ideas. And he was the one who showed that you can actually get energy from water. And you can, really analyze water. He found out how to get atomic hydrogen from water. In our laboratory, you can get molecular hydrogen from water. What you leave behind is nascent oxygen. So if you put that for running an engine, the engine will be eaten up in 1 week. But Rustum Roy found out how to get atomic oxygen from water, and by passing radio waves through water. So he kept water in a test tube and passed radio waves, and out came atomic hydrogen. So he lit it. So he shows water burning. So he showed that Urj, sloka in the Rig Veda is absolutely right. But he didn't get the Nobel Prize. 21 times Nobel nominated, but didn't get the Nobel Prize, because each paper he wrote, he used to praise India. If you praise India, you will not get Nobel Prize. I want you to read a paper of Rustum Roy, which is in the internet free, called Matter is Not Made Out of Matter. What's the paper's name? Matter is Not Made Out of Matter. Very interestingly, he was talking about it in a meeting where I was present. So he said, I'm a nuclear scientist. My job is to look at matter at its subtlest level and subtlest level. So I was doing it for 55 years. I started with Einstein, Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, and then now I am the director of Max Planck Institute. But I found out in between somewhere there is no matter at all. And matter is not there, matter is just energy. So E is equal to M. He is the one who found out. E, energy, is equal to matter, M. And he said, I call it as a duality, a duality. And he said, what am I in front of the Indian sages of yore who had realized this long back as Advaita? A duality is called Advaita. He says in one stanza in the Upanishad, which has come to Bhagavad Gita and out, they have described the whole of quantum physics, because he is the father of quantum physics. His name is Hans Peter Dürr, Hanspeter. And Hans, a good friend of mine, found out that one stanza, and he quotes that stanza in English in that. He says, Bahir antascha bhutanam. It is inside and outside of everything. What is that energy? Charam acharamevacha. It's moving all the time but looks solid. Now you all look solid. I look solid, but there's nothing solid about us. We are all just a bundle of jumping leptococs or electrons. Nobody has seen an electron. Sukshmavatet avijnayam. This sloka says, you can't see it. Just can't see it. Can you imagine that? Long, long ago, long before electrons were known. But even today, no scientist has seen an electron. But they've all got a Nobel Prize for describing what an electron is. Imagination only. J.J. Thomson in 1907 got the Nobel Prize for saying that electrons are particles. He was the director of the Cavendish Institute in Cambridge. 30 years later, his own son, P.J. Thomson, said they are waves. He also got the Nobel Prize. In 1925, Werner Heisenberg said uncertainty principle. He is absolutely right. He got the Nobel Prize. In 32, Schrödinger said they are wavicles. They are waves and particles. He also got the Nobel Prize. But nobody has seen the electron in the bargain. Why can't you see an electron? All great students in the back. Why can't you see an electron? Have you seen God? So God doesn't exist, right? Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So God doesn't have any evidence to exist, so he doesn't exist. That's not correct. That's called foolish science. That's called illogical science. Science has no logic. Illogical science. You know why? Why can't you see an electron? Huh? Again the Upanishad says, Asino vrajati duram, shayano jati sarvatha. When you sit, you are everywhere, and when you nowhere, you are nowhere. So beautiful, but you can't see an electron. Have you seen wind? An American poet has so beautifully described that. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bend and dance, the wind is passing by. So I change that. Who has seen God? Neither you nor I. But when we are in trouble and shout for God, we feel God.